All right, picking up on the next video, let's continue the topic of common nuances and writing trends I'm seeing collectively amongst all your writing. Let's talk a little bit about tense. So, whenever you're referring to an author's research that occurred in the past, you will use past tense. So, as an example, author, we'll just use E.T. for an author of three or more primary authors. Year conducted in past tense a study regarding the importance of blank in order to better understand blank. So this is a good example. This could be author year. This could be, or author comma year. This could be author ampersand, author comma year, or author ETL year. Another important distinction, I shouldn't say author ampersand. It should be author and author year outside of the parentheses. Glad I brought that up. If you were making an attribution, you would use author and author, comma year. And so it's important to note that you'll never use ampersand outside of your in-text citation version. If you're attributing, it will always be spelled out. So that's just an aside. That was not my primary point there. So author, ETL, year, conducted in past tense a study, let's follow that formula to add more specificity and details in 2023 regarding the importance of blank in order to better understand blank. So clearly, 2023, the research was conducted in the past tense, so it makes sense intuitively that you would refer to it in the past tense, right? So the reason I make that distinction is if you are going to refer to generalizations or summaries or anything along those lines, general explanations, for instance, it's always going to be in present tense, which would be author, ETL, year, explains the importance of, or highlights the positive correlation of blank with blank. So do you see the difference here? This particular version is referring to a study conducted in the past by virtue of the date that you're attributing with. So you would refer to it in the past tense. When you're referring, say, for instance, the same study in 2023, if you're summarizing or if the author is providing generalizations or extrapolations of the findings, you would refer to that in present tense because it's being employed towards the current population in real time in the universe, right? So that's the difference. That's another common trend that I see quite often. Finally, let's chat quickly about reference citations. So with reference citations, it's very important to know that your first step is to identify the source type. The more specific, the better. So for instance, in sports, a lot of times, say for instance, you are utilizing some sport analytics resources from a database, a sport database online. You can, of course, refer to that in a general sense as if it were a general website, but it would make more sense to refer to it and cite it, therefore, as a data set, an online data set, instead of just a general website. So the goal is to always default to the most specific source type you can identify. Now you can look up in the APA manual, publication manual, the different source types. Of course, I think most of you all are cognizant of and have used APA Purdue OWL. You can go to the reference citations online tab on the left, and you can look through all of those online sources, which quite frankly, that's the majority of what you're going to use. You can see the exact template for how to cite a data source, a periodical online with or without a DOI. The majority, point two, the majority, so 95% of your final source material in your literature review should come from peer-reviewed scholarly articles. So if you were to reference APA Purdue OWL, you would look up online scholarly articles with a DOI assigned. And if there is no DOI, you would revert to online scholarly articles with no DOI assigned, which essentially just means you are defaulting to a URL or hyperlink in the absence of a DOI. So I see this most commonly. Make sure with your references page that you are utilizing hanging indent, which means that the first line of your reference citation is flush left to the margin of your page, and each subsequent line of your reference citation is indented and a half inch in. And then with each new reference citation, it's flush left. So this helps to distinguish when one reference citation starts and when one ends. Also, make sure that you are organizing your reference citations in alpha order. I think those are the main items. The most common egregious error is not properly and specifically identifying the source type in order to be able to employ the right citation template. So make sure you know what you're citing. If you need help with it, let me know. This is another huge item. Make sure you do not use or copy paste reference citations from online citation generators. So online citation generators are what you typically see when you find an article via specific journals in the library or via specific databases. A lot of times over to the right or to the left, depending on the database or journal, you'll see an automatic citation that's generated. 9 times out of 10, actually I'll just say 9.99 out of 10 times, that citation is incorrect. So it's okay to use it as a starting point, but make sure that you're able to identify the source type, look it up in the APA manual, or also reference APA Purdue OWL, and make sure you cite it 150% in the correct format with all the right details. What I will do is check every single reference citation that you include in your work, and I'll make sure that all applicable elements are included. Again, this goes back to my point of no gray area with APA congruence. You have to make sure that everything's included. Okay, finally, as indicated by the general outline I presented, let's talk about the formula for presenting research and research data. So, what do you do? I get a lot of questions from incoming writers, and I've gotten a lot of questions from you all in your research consultation sessions about what is the appropriate way to present numerical data or even directly quoted material. It all kind of falls under the same umbrella, the same strategy for presenting. So you can refer to this formula to do this. Hopefully it'll make it a little bit simpler and prescriptive for you. So first is to identify the author's year. If you're attributing, which is very common with this, the nature of the research, the end goal of the research, and any peripheral context necessary to understand a study presented. Verbose way of saying make sure you attribute the author or authors, the year, the nature of any study conducted. So a study was not just a study was conducted and found. You want to make sure you denote a study was conducted by author and author, year, researchers at the University of blank, the end goal of the research, and any peripheral context. So I'm going to also add in here year, affiliation of researchers or author of the source, just to help you out a little bit. I also forgot to mention the affiliation of researchers is important when you're summarizing the background. And again, when you present research or data, the goal is to identify the author's name, year of publication up front, first and foremost, by virtue of an attribution, then to start presenting other important strains of information, such as what is the author's background, what organizational affiliation are they with, and then the nature of the research, the end goal, etc. So a good example for this, let me create an example here. Author, year, primary researcher of sport sociology at the University of Tennessee, Gross, conducted a 2023 study regarding the importance of blank on blank. So what we have here, we have your attribution, which is quite normal, right? Then we have your organizational affiliation, primary researcher of sport sociology at the University of Tennessee, conducted a 2023 study regarding the importance of whatever the phenomenon is on blank, I should say blank. This is the population. And so what this is doing is, in a succinct way, you're providing the author information, year of publication, the background and context of the researchers, and why they are researching this element or this phenomenon. So what's next? Present numerical data or source data with as much accuracy as you can. So always refer to your primary source. And from here, I'm just using the same formula I've already presented for improving academic tone and including a semicolon here because it's very easy to do this all together, right? Wrap it up as a single package. It's easy to understand. So author, year, primary researcher of sport sociology at the University of Tennessee, conducted a 2023 study regarding the importance of blank on blank. Researcher name, so you can say author identified, let's say, blank percent of blank percent perceived blank. So you're clearly presenting the data. Keep in mind these blanks are contingent upon your subject matter, right? So you'll see that you're expressly identifying those items. Then what do? Let's go to bullet point 3. Analyze or translate the material to real world practice. Substantiate your thesis statement. I really need new glasses. You'll have to forgive me. Analyze or translate the material to real world practice, substantiate your thesis statement, substantiate claims being made. And so this is where you would take all of this and what is the ultimate buy-in? Why should practitioners in the field